Thank you once again for joining us on the fourth session, which is called as Events Trans Time Transcends Events. Yesterday we discussed about the principle of karma. Karma is not regret centric, karma is action centric. Denying karma is denying wisdom, denying karma is denying common sense. Karma is no cause of suffering but ignorance. Fruit and action, we discussed how you know the action is there. One should not be attached to the fruits because fruits anyway it will come. Good people choose inaction. We discussed about how unfortunately many times good people choose to be inactive. But then we also discussed action is never our choice, it is our nature. Action gives rise to consequences, how to deal with that, right? Today, in fact, the time, the Kala, which was called as Kal has a very great connection to the concept of karma. The teachings of Bhagavad Gita, right? The teachings of Bhagavad Gita, they're integrated. Unfortunately, in the modern education system, the subjects are separated from one subject to another subject. But life is never separated. Life is an integrated reality. When I glorify salt, that's the speciality of salt, but salt cannot be consumed alone other than in connection to other ingredients, right? There is nothing like that. When it is harmonized with other ingredients, its flavor, its taste, and its value increases, right? So when the Vedic rishis studied about time, Kala, there are a lot of literatures, theological debates, philosophical explanation on the concept of time from the modern perspective and also from the traditional perspective. We will discuss a little bit on that also while we are discussing the definition given in the Gita. Right, one of the interesting principle, the Gita defines Kala as eternal. So therefore, when we study Ghatana is an event. Action and consequences are event bound, right? And they're moment bound. Means that event does not occupy the entire time itself. Event, they are frozen, but the time is always flowing. Please understand, this is very important because the the line of thought has to be understood. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna made some fantastic statement to Arjuna, which bewildered Arjuna, and therefore he raised this question. In the fourth chapter of the first verse, Krishna told Arjuna, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god, Vivaswan, right? And Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind. And Manu in turn instructed to Ikshvaku. So Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, saying that this imperishable science of yoga, it is not created, it is not fictional. See, whatever, when somebody speaks or says, when it makes sense, it is making sense not because it is poetically explained. It is making sense because it is connected to the eternal principle of life, right? If anything is connected to the eternal principle of life, however old it is, it has a feeling of freshness, right? So here when Krishna spoke, I spoke this knowledge, naturally what that will do, that gave a great confusion, surprise in the heart of Arjuna. But there is another principle we learn before we come to Arjuna. When Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science, that makes it very clear Kala is a circular concept. Many philosophers, they want to begin time from somewhere and conclude to some point. And therefore, the concept of creation in the Abrahamic faith is a linear concept. It begins here, it concludes in this place. Therefore, the concept of reincarnation does not exist, because the concept of reincarnation is connected to the principle of eternality of existence. And the principle of resurrection is emanating because the creation is limited. It starts here, it concludes here, and if it concludes here, then it becomes your desperate responsibility to conclude your life in a positive way. Because if you fail to positively achieve something in your life, then there is a possibility that you are eternally failed, eternally condemned. Because time is linear. And this is one of the greatest encouraging thing when we study about time, how the Vedic literature, the Vedic rishis, the Bhagavad Gita has the power to reconcile between that important moment which is called as a muhurta, right? Such an importance is given to muhurta, that right timing when you throw that akshata, or when you offer that tantunanena, the Mangal Sutra, right? Or the Hasta Milap. So there is a specific timing which people give importance to. That is called as Muhurta. Just like when a sports person, a cricketer is playing, right? When a bowler, especially somebody is bowling with a speed of 155 kilometers per hour, the ball is coming to you with a speed of 155 kilometers, and you have covered the stump, and you're facing that ball. How much time do you have to think about what to do with this ball? Should I leave this ball? Should I flick this ball? Should I hook this ball? What should I do with this ball? How much time one has to think about what to do? And those who are well prepared, mentally skillful, within that speed also, they have the power and the skill to decide what to do and what not to do. Sometime you must have seen, even for the fast bowler, a batsman is about to play, then he suddenly leaves it. In the split of a second, he changes his mind to live or not to live. Right? So the point we are discussing here, the time factor, that muhurta is so important. If you choose wrongly, then there is a chances that you will go out. So the point what we are discussing here, it's very important that as much as there is a point, if you make a mistake, according to the biblical methodology, your mistake is an eternal reality. But in the Vedic lore, in the Bhagavad Gita, your mistake is impacting you now, no doubt, but that very mistake is simply an event of your entire existence. That eventually that event loses its credibility, however powerful and however negative or positive it is, because that is nothing but an event of life. India getting its independence in 1947, how big the movement was when it happened. But compare that in 1947, August 15, those who experienced that, and remember that very day today, that moment has lost its charm. That moment has lost its power to give that experience where people received, because the event always becomes redundant compared to the power of time. Hmm. So therefore, when Krishna speaks this to Arjuna, what does he brings? One important principle: the eternality, Sanatana Kala. Right? So that Sanatan Kala has the power to facilitate multi opportunities for us to deal with the event which has conditioned us to perform similar actions. Somebody is a drunkard, somebody is a drug addict, somebody is an abuser. What happened? Somewhere that one event led to multiple repetition of the same event. The collection of all that event creates a condition of the living entity. But even that strong condition does not sustain, does not survive. This is very encouraging and very important for us to understand. Does not sustain and does not, survive in comparison to the eternal time. Therefore, in the Biblic literature, sin is an eternal reality. Salvation is an eternal reality. Piety is an eternal reality. Going to heavenly planets is an eternal reality. Going to hellish planet is eternal reality, because time is not dynamic. Time is not eternal. In the Sanatan Dharma, Papa is as insignificant as an event compared to eternality. When you separate the act of sin to eternality, then that papa is very significant. That muhurta, that timing, when somebody performs some action, it is significant. It has the power to shake your entire existence, not the existence itself. Our entire existence is shaken, but it is not shaking the existence itself, because the existence is connected to eternality, and our existence, our physical existence, our event concentric existence is connected to a part of the time. And therefore, interestingly, if you see, when you perform a sin which is anti-God, you go to hell forever in the non-Sanatan Dharma philosophy. But in the Sanatan Dharma philosophy, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Kamsa, and similar great demons, Ravana, forget simply being atheistic about God, saying that I don't believe in God, hell with God, I don't care for God. This is a very, very insignificant, band where people are making noise. But Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravan, Kumbhakarna, they were conscious, systematic, centralized crime against God and anything godly. Means the amount, the volume, the intensity of going against the nature and God is unimaginable. But still, from the perspective of time itself, it is insignificant. Imagine going back to Satya Yuga during the times of Hiranyakashipu, right? For thousands of years he harassed devatas also. What to speak of ordinary human beings? But now today, does that Hiranyakashipu make any sense in your and my life? Does he? Absolutely nothing. And therefore, Sanatan Dharma has the power to forgive the greatest of the villain, the greatest of the papi, because Papa always stands exposed to the principle of eternal time factor. So therefore, there is no sin. Very important to understand. When you make time very small, when you make a time linear, then every event becomes significant to such an extent that your sin gives rise to eternal condemnation. Your piety gives rise to eternal heavenly place. Very black and white. But the eternal time has the power to deal with the event. How much? As much as that event requires the attention of the time factor. Some event, the time will give 10 minutes attention. Some event, the time will give 20 minutes attention, 10 years attention, 20 years attention, 500 years attention, 300 years attention, 400 years attention, right? But eventually the time says you are still insignificant compared to eternality. Therefore, whether it is Hiranyakashipu, whether it is Kamsa, whether it is Ravana, the eternal condemnation is non-existent, because the event is always minuscule compared to the eternality. And therefore, the Kala is synonymous to what? Synonymous to Lord himself. It is explained. I was reading again. Augustine and Hippo. Augustine of Hippo wrote that God is outside of time. That time exists only within the created universe. Okay. Thomas Aquinas took the same view, and many theologians agree. On this view, God would perceive something like a block universe, while time might appear differently to the finite being contained within it. Okay. So now, in essence, again the same principle, that a time is made an outsider compared to God. When the time is made outsider to God, what does it do? You create the universe in a way which is, you know, it's an emergency event, and you have to get immediately out of this place. Nikal jao jaldi jaldi. Right? Because what is it? That creation mein Bhagwan nahi. There is no God in the creation. Therefore, get lost of this creation as early as possible. But for us, the Prakriti is eternal as the Purusha, the Ishvara. The creation is as eternal as the time itself. So there is a desperation in regards to achieving, there is a desperation in regards to journey of mukti, but there is no obsession about getting mukti. Abhi milna hi chahiye. Otherwise I'll go to hell forever. Right? And therefore, when Arjuna asked this question, what did Arjuna ask this question? He said, hey, come on, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? Krishna told, right? I spoke this knowledge. So how may I understand? Arjuna is also questioning Krishna. Why is he questioning Krishna? Because the past can never be pratyaksha pramana. The past Even the 100 years ago, what happened? There is no pratyaksha pramana, there is no direct evidence. Indian history for so many years, to such an extent, it is distorted. The narratives are basically made into evidence rather than the evidence themselves. Right? I keep saying, oh, India was poor country, India is poor country. People don't come to India because they want to look for opportunities of growth. They come for looking for spirituality. India was never in regards to economics. It's all about spiritual perfection. But that is not a right statement. That's a narration. Right? Why it is the narration? And we have purchased that narration for so long. There is an alternative narration also. And that alternative narration, right, has a greater probability to believe in. But whatever it is, whether these narrations are right or wrong, the point is the past is only inference compared to pratyaksha pramana. I have no excess of going back to the past and trying to prove, right, this was the truth and this was not the truth. So therefore Arjuna asked this question, hey, come on, you are saying that you spoke this knowledge to senior to you, Vivaswan, sun god, and sun for that matter, as long as the creation is there, he is there. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? Therefore, in the time principle, the past and the future are an abstract reality. Because the past and future an abstract reality, many philosophers, they consider the concept of past and future as an illusion in regards to the present. Anything which is not within your grasp, why should I believe this? Anything which is not within your grasp, either it is narrative, fiction, illusion, Brahma. What you have is simply the present, therefore they call power of present. But the religious sanction which was given, the religious dikkat which was given in the modern for the modern world, is again based upon very limited understanding of time as against the time which is explained in the Vedic literature. Right? So what did Krishna say? Krishna said, my dear Arjuna, you change bodies, I do not change the bodies. So again, Krishna is speaking from an eternal perspective. When we have the eternal perspective understanding of the time, then the past does not become a question mark to us. A past does not become a suspicion to us. A past does not become, doubt in us, because we believe that eternality, this also could be possible. So therefore, for the scientific community, there are many theories, as I said. For them, past is an illusion. Past is non-existent. Of course, the historian, they will write history, but I'm talking about the philosopher in regards to time. They say the child is born is a reality. But why child is behaving like this, that you have to go to the past. To understand the behavior of the child, the consequences has to give rise to questioning the past. Oh, because the child is behaving like this, therefore it could be like this. But again, the past remains completely abstract. But in the Sanatan Dharma, which is very important to understand, that the past, present, and future are integrated The past has the power to influence the present, but not control the present. Even the genetic study proves that there are certain cells in the human existence or any animal existence, they have certain conditioning. They operate based upon the background. And what is the percentage of those cells which operate like that? It's about 60-62%, I think. But there are an intelligent cell, they adopt according to the changing times. That means you see the power of cell. The power of cell are saying conditioning is time bound. Conditioning is an event point. It's a movement point. But endeavor and working to transcend your event is a time limitless. It is not time bound. And therefore, the God of Sanatan Dharma, Krishna, has the power, courage to say to Arjuna, you know what, Arjun? I have spoken this knowledge to you. Now you choose what you want to do. You have to understand, if those who understand the eternality of time, they have the power of patience. But if you wrongly, superficially understand the power of eternal time, that also can give rise to being lazy. Arey, time hi hai, eternal hai. Where is the point in trying to be serious in life? If not this lifetime, I can go to another lifetime. Therefore, the time does not decide your temperament. The time does not decide your temper. One can use the time factor for wrongly. That's what I'm saying. If I realize that I'm eternal, if I realize there are many opportunities, there is a tendency for some people, chalega, what is the big deal? Nowadays, people, I get to know, sometimes people think of marriage. Oh, I need to get married. And there are many permutation and combination. So this permutation and combination, when you see from a logical perspective, from your own perspective, sounds extremely unreasonable. But still they go ahead. Why they go ahead and do it? Because there is another perspective they have developed. What will happen? Maximum divorce will happen. We can move out after 3 years, 4 years. Right? So the choices in life for many people gives rise to taking things lightly. So therefore, sometimes there are some spiritualists, there are some educationalists, there are some parents, they repeatedly tell, "Arey, time ja raha hai, time ja raha hai, time is going. You know what? If you miss it, then you'll miss all the bus only. You'll never be getting in to go there. It will be dangerous for you. There'll be no growth for you. There'll be no job. There'll be no life." Right? Are you doing because you believe time is limited? Are you doing it to make your children serious? Are you doing because you are panicky? Why are you doing it? Therefore, when Krishna told Arjuna, my dear Arjun, I have spoken the Gita to you. Now, this takes not only courage, it takes the understanding of the time factor. If Arjuna had said, no, Krishna, I've heard your Bhagavad Gita, it makes sense to me on an intellectual platform, it makes sense to me on a logical platform, but you know what? I have chosen not to fight this battle. Hell with this war. I'm going out. Right? And I'm going to call those who are my party people. Everybody join Arjun. We are not going to fight. If Arjuna had decided like that, what would Krishna do? Now, Krishna is prepared for establishing dharma since so long, and suddenly at that moment, Arjuna is saying, I am not going to fight. The probability of Arjuna saying, I'm not going to fight, was still existing. Because Krishna knew Arjuna's attachment to Bhishma, Drona, and Krupacharya. But even in that condition, the Lord is telling Arjuna, Yathechasi tata karo. You choose what you want to do. Where does this come from? This comes from the principle of, hey Arjun, time is eternal. and your decision not to fight is simply an event born. If you don't find the consequences of that event, adharma will flourish. But how long will it flourish? I will find some other instrument. So therefore, those who understand the philosophy of karma, those who understand the philosophy of karma yoga, those who understand the responsibility of doing one's duty, for them such time, eternal time, gives rise to encouragement, and muhurta gives rise to the importance of that event. They are able to reconcile between the moment and the time factor. They're able to reconcile between the moment and eternality. Eternality gives rise to encouragement, confidence, and hope. And muhurta gives rise to importance, emergency, timeliness. A timeliness and time, they are able to reconcile. When the timeliness and time are reconciled, then you become a yogi. And when you become a yogi, what happens? Then you have the power to transcend the event eventually. Now again, interesting point, Arjuna told Krishna. Now Krishna told Arjuna in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. What is that state? Again, it's very important. The state is, are you remembering the permanent, or are you focusing on the non-permanent? What are the non-permanent? The non-permanent is that I want to watch a movie. I want to be with my family. I'm talking about during the departure of life. Oh, I want to make more money. So what happened? Because I have focused in regards to the moments of life, the time factor eventually in the next life brings me back to that same situation or moment. The event may change different shape and size, but the impact of the event continues to remain the same for us because we chose to remember the limited one rather than remembering the eternal one. Very important to understand this. Whatever state. What is my state? Oh, I want to serve my country. What is my state? Oh, I want to serve this family. What do you want to do? I want to serve these people. And I want to be a chief minister. I want to be a prime minister. So what happens? These aspirations, these affirmations, it is not about right or wrong. These affirmations denote our connection to the moment. And because they're connected to the moment, the time factor allows us the facility, just like Krishna allowed Arjuna to choose. Yathachasi tata guru. Decide what you want to do. And how long Arjuna took to fight Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya? Krishna is giving the instruction, convinced them philosophically, physically, every perspective. But it took 10 days for Arjuna to shoot at Bhishma. Therefore, what do I remember? The temporary event or eternal reality? If I remember the eternal reality, naturally the temporary realities are finished. We transcend the temporary reality. And therefore, what Gita is talking about, the time factor, is not a hopeless one. It is not a frozen one. It is not a condemning one. It is not causing fear in our heart. Because what does Krishna say about the time factor? Huh? Again and again, 8.19 chapter Bhagavad Gita, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being. And with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Read the verse again if you want to understand. The process of appearance and disappearance is an eternal reality for all the living entities. There is a multi you know, millions of time you get an opportunity, right? When you see that, oh, sometime a living entity suffers in the same species millions of lifetime, ek yoni, koti koti fera. Sometime you take birth in the same yoni for 100,000s of time. So that to explain the importance of the muhurta. But along with that, explaining the importance of muhurta, the Sanatana Dharma explains, yeah, but there is a life is eternal. If you fumble, if you make a mistake, if you goof up, that is not your eternal reality, that is your momentary reality. Therefore, even people like Kamsa, Ravana, everybody becomes redundant because they're killed by the time factor. Their significance is killed by the time factor. I remember recently I was asking some children. I asked them, do you know Chandrasekhar? So they didn't know which Chandrasekhar. I asked them, do you know Ajit Wadekar? That day, Ajit Wadekar had left his body. They didn't know who Ajit Wadekar is. Chandrasekhar was a Prime Minister of India, and these children were studying in 9th standard. They did not know. Were they ignorant? Yeah, they should know about Indian Prime Ministers, ex-Prime Ministers also. But there is another reality. What is that reality? The power of time makes even the Prime Minister's position insignificant. If you ask the Maharashtrian people living in America and Europe, do you know Shivaji Maharaj? Some very modernized Maharashtrian kids who are grown up in America will not be able to recollect. Maybe faintly they must have heard, yeah, I know, my dad told me something like that, they might say. Forget about that. See the power of time. Even avatars, the incarnations of the Lord, there are many, many descriptions of incarnations, right? If I say Hayagriva incarnation, if I say Hamsa avatar, if I say Nar Narayan avatar, when they appeared, there was a purpose, there was a colossal adharma happening in regards to knowledge, in regards to wrong tapasvis coming and misusing the principle of tapasya when Nar Narayan come. But today, their appearance in your life, does it make any fresh relevance? The time factor has the power to make even some avatars redundant. What to speak our limitation, what to speak of our sin, what to speak of one event, what to speak of one ghatana. When an event is given more important than the time factor, we become atheistic. When we do not give any significance to the event in the name of eternality, we become burdened to the time, because time is not different from God, Krishna. But when we harmonize between understanding the eternality of time and that particular muhurta, a cricketer might say, you know what, why should I play? There are many matches I can play. It's okay. If I fall in this match. He's focused on giving attention to every ball which is coming to him as a batsman. He's very conscious and very skillful. He's making such a fast decision. A soldier on the battlefield, you can imagine, it is not targeting some bottle. It is not targeting some, some picture. But when you're shooting the bullet, and when the bullets are coming to you, that a split of a second can take away your life. But taking away your life will not be an eternal reality for you and to those people who have lost you. The life has to move on, and the life has to move on based upon that eternal principle. Just imagine therefore Lord Krishna says again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all the living entities come into being. Opportunity coming again. And with the arrival of Brahma's night, they're all helplessly annihilated. They're going withdrawn. The withdrawal is also a event, but appearance and performing your activities, being dutiful, is another opportunity given by the Prakriti. Therefore, it is explained very interestingly. What it is said, yes, Krishna says, what does he say? He told Arjuna when he showed his Vishwarupa form, he said, the Supreme Personality of God, it says 8.32, time I am the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people, with the exception of you, the Pandavas. All the soldiers here on the both the side will be slain. Now, unfortunately, what happened? We only focus on this verse and always define time as a killer. But we forget to see the previous verse of Lord Krishna speaking, Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. What does it do? What does he say? That again and again the Brahma's days arrives. Again and again you get the opportunity. And again you misuse the opportunity. The misusing of the opportunity is an unfortunate situation for that moment. But when you get the next opportunity to undo your misdeeds, which is more powerful, the wrong deeds or the opportunity to experience eternal reality? Right? So therefore, the time here, don't only focus on the destructing power of the time. More so focus on the eternal time factor, where it creates a life within death also. It has the power to create nectar within the death also. Right. So therefore, when somebody is suffering, this is, somebody is suffering, no amount of counseling will help them. We need to counsel. No amount of medicine will help them. We need to give them medicine. No amount of encouragement will help them. We need to give them encouragement. But what helps? The passing of the time. The passing of the time will. Therefore, whatever that song, Apna Time Aayega, the guy who compiled it, the guy who sang it, they do not realize what they are saying, because it is like a pearl in the hand of a monkey. Mangana Kayalli Manikya. When the pearl is in the hands of the monkey, they don't realize the value of that pearl. But that statement, ki your time will come, it has such a deep connotation. Your time will come, my dear friend. That means a kala will come as death to you. And to somebody else, the same statement, your time will come. What does that indicate? Don't worry, your time will also come. And in astrology, for such timing, there is a timing and there is a time. And the timing defines your negative and positive events. And the time defines this will also pass by. And that is called as dasha system in astrology. If you study astrological concept, they are so deeply connected to the philosophical reality. Apna time bhi aayega. Moon and Saturn, Saturn moves very slowly. Moon moves very fast. And therefore, when the moon and Saturn are sitting together, what is it? It is such a great, I'm not saying great in a positive sense or a negative sense. Moon represents limitlessness. and Saturn represent judicious limitations, right? And Chandra, is a personification of Krishna. Chandra is personification of Krishna, and Shani is a personification of experiencing our limitation, which is called as Sadesati. So what happens? If your moon is strong, that means your connection to Kala is strong. That means your connection to Brahman is strong. That means your connection to Supreme Brahman is strong. Then you'll have the power and courage to handle, you know. And therefore, what I said, no counseling, no medicine, nothing. We have to do all that. But only thing what can help people is to wait patiently to experience the pain subsiding, and the power of time is so great, it doesn't matter how great pain you are going through. One may say, "Arey, they could never recuperate, they could never come out of this." I say no, they may not have come out of it, but the pain what they experienced when the event happened, and the pain what they're experiencing today, compared to somebody else dealing with that, they must have not dealt similarly. But still, the pain, the day it happened, and the pain what they're experiencing of 10 years, there is a big gap. Hmm? So therefore, it is important to understand the pain does not go immediately. The pain does not go immediately, but at the same time, the pain does not stay permanently. Read this once again. The pain does not go immediately, and the pain does not stay permanently. And both are the aspect of the time itself. The pain does not go immediately is connected to the event, and the pain does not stay permanently is connected to time, right? So when we deal with the event with the help of the time, we deal with our action and consequences with the help of the personification of time, then we have the power to move forward. We have the power to move forward. We have the power to move forward. Therefore, if the time is killer, time is healer also. If time gives you darkness, the time will also give you light. If time is giving you death, the time is giving you killing. Like when Krishna told Arjun, you know what, I am the time, I am destroyer of everything other than you five Pandavas. Yes, the Kurus got destroyed, they were killed. But what happened to them after that? They proceeded further in the higher journey of life. They achieved the Viragati, the valorous death, right? And they experience a certain level of reality, what we call as, higher pleasure in the form of heavenly planets, right? It was not that Duryodhana was degraded. Duryodhana was degraded because of his activities, but Duryodhana was not degraded eternally and permanent. Therefore, how can karma, how can time, how can God, how can Prakriti, how can Jiva should be studied separately and reach our own conclusion? Not possible. If you love God and if you study the concept of time factor, if you study the time concept of creation, you'll become more fascinated by this God. And therefore, just understand, like yesterday we were discussing the concept of karma, that the Christian ideology is that karma minimizes the contribution of God. But Gita is saying karma creates a fascination in regards to the working of God's law. When you are fascinated by the working of God's law, you will be charmed by the God's personality and his psychology, right? Therefore, the time factor Never see only from the destruction perspective. Harmonize, therefore, the Panchanga, the timing. In the Jyotish Shastra, there is a concept of Panchanga. Our sages did not make us take things for granted by only focusing on telling time is eternal. And our sages did not scare us by only telling us, this muhurta, if this muhurta goes away, everything will go wrong. They focused on the muhurta and they focused on the kala. When you focus on the muhurta, muhurta means right timing, and kala means the eternal timing. They harmonize the permanent to the moment. They harmonize the now to the eternal past and future and now. They saw continuous flow, but within that continuous flow, they saw that timing. Sometime you break Ekadashi 6:40 to 6:42, right? And people are, oh, I need to break. So what does it do? It gives rise to feeling of I'm respecting the present. And at the same time, while respecting the present, if I do make some mistake in the present, it giving me the encouragement of opportunity in the future. Therefore, time is not simply a wristwatch that we wear, right? A time is, we can make it so colorful, putting on her like dressing the deities colorfully with all kinds of fragrances in understanding the whole concept of deeper aspect of the time. And when we do that, what does it do? Even Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, all such infamous great personalities who caused so much of violence, now their violence is simply a story for a drama. Their violence is a story for a speaker to speak in a most charming and captivating way. Not the story itself alone, the presentation skill of the storyteller. The story is great, but the way he presents also. A boring person who's telling the story, oh, Hiranyakashipu was there and he was killed. Anyway, that story is irrelevant in my life because now Hiranyakashipu is not hurting me. Therefore, Corona, what is Corona compared to Hiranyakashipu? What is any disease compared to Hiranyakashipu? What is any situation compared to time factor? Right? So what Corona taught us? Corona taught us, yes, moments are very important, but waiting for that right time is also very important. And those who followed this philosophy, that I will wait, because now is the waiting period. Only when I wait, then I'll get to perform my actions. And therefore, whether it is Mahabharata, whether it is Ramayana, whether it is Bhagavad, there is a time where the heroes of this great literature, they have a moment to become frozen. Just accept the reality that we have been disrobed. We have been stripped of all of our resources. What to do? Along with that patience internally, prepare for going back to your place. So when this combination of muhurta, the patience and enthusiasm, therefore Rupa Goswami, when he speaks in the Upadesh Amrita, again it is based upon the time only. What is that? Nishchaya dhairya tat karma pravartana. Another principle it talks about utsad nishchaya dhairya tat karma pravartana. Means you need to have a patience, and you need to have enthusiasm also, and you need to have determination, because patience and enthusiasm are opposite to each other. The patience denotes eternality of time, and enthusiasm denotes the muhurta, the part of that time, and determination denotes I am going to handle this conflicting situation and make it harmony by determination. I will not stop harmonizing these two principles so that at one point of time, antakalecha, the state of mind what I have during the departure is, what is it? It is not about the moment. It is about the eternality. If I'm thinking about the eternality and I've given away the thinking of the events of life, where will I go? What will I achieve? I'm closer to the eternality of life. I'm transcending the moment of life. And therefore, the daring people, those who are dare, those who are courageous, those who understand the power of eternality, they do not fear playing their game every moment, forever, till they achieve their forever destination. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
Yeah. Harsh ji, you can ask your question. Harsh, you can ask your question. Unmute yourself.
I can read here.
Hare Krishna, Pradhan, Pranam. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for this. This is a very philosophical topic and interesting topic. I've been hearing your classes and you were mentioning about harmony a lot, like a harmony of question and answer, a harmony of permanent and moment. Can you actually, apart from using this word, can you just give a concrete example? Like you tried to give it in a very abstract manner for me, that how do the rishis or sages harmonize the moment and the permanent? Like I understand they do, but if you can give some example, citing something that harmony.
Simple. When you are getting married, there was a muhurta.
Yeah.
When you are going for exam, there is a time, 3 hours. You have to reach there.
Okay.
Right. Right. So that is practical. This was operating all over. Now also it operates. You have a time which is 7. You are catching a train at 7:14, but making that 7:14 as your eternal reality, that means you are finished. But not giving importance to that 7:14, that means you are taking the entire principle of life lightly. So it is a common sense everyday affair which happens, and especially like when a child is born, why there is a timing important? The timing is important to experience and harmonize the eternal only. So it is happening on everyday basis while cooking. For example, ask your mother, ask your wife, ask your grandmother. There is a timing for making that sugar pak. Little bit here and there, it destroys. Right? So there is nothing in this world which is, therefore, it is not simply a philosophical truth. Gita is an operational truth.
Yeah.
We have to observe more carefully about this. So therefore there is a continuously, this principle is automatically happening. The harmony between those who can understand this principle. Now what has happened? People don't care. I don't believe in this. They believe in the local train running on time, but they do not believe in the planetary positions which are operating very, very consciously, very systematically. And we are not exploring and not utilizing the benefit of that. So we are losing the concept of eternality and we are losing the concept of muhurta. Just see, it is everywhere. It is not at all. Nothing what we discussed here is simply a poetic fictional philosophy. You are living by that, I am living by that. When I don't live by that, when I miss the muhurta, that event is spoiled. But my eternal life is not spoiled. I can again bounce back and deal with that. Does it make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Prabhuji, can you just add one more thing on similar lines when you were asked that are the parents pushing the children to study because of panic or because of the long-term benefits. So I was not able to understand the intent. Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, again, that our intent along with the action, like I mentioned in Sanatan Dharma, in Buddhism it is only intent. In Sanatan Dharma, action, intent both are important. Your child needs push. It doesn't matter what is your intention in regards to teaching. Let us take from that perspective. He or she requires the push. But along with that, if there is a right intent, a right understanding, the push becomes more, positive. It gives rise to positive experience. Otherwise, they might become skillful. They might become successful in achieving certain professional growth, but the emotional fulfillment will be broken and disturbed. Therefore, we don't want to make only, like I give the example of the modern sports people, they're much more skillful compared to the previous sports people. What they lack is they lack the sportsmanship. And the purpose of sports is not only the skill, the spirit behind the sports. Similarly, life is all about the skill, then we become machine. And his life is all about the spirit only, and the machine starts operating. So the machine is there and the spirit is also there. So when it is harmonized, that becomes yoga. We are not emphasizing only on the machine, and we are not only emphasizing on the spirit. We are emphasizing machine operation requires skill, and the purpose behind why we operate requires the spirit. Does it make sense?
Yeah, this again relates to duality principle because one cannot exist without other. That's what it seems to me.
Yes, yes, you cannot exist. When we focus on the skill, you lose your spirit, and therefore there are huge number of people who are suffering from mental disorder. And then there are people, crazy people, are very, very deeply spiritually absorbed. They cannot contribute to the creation of the world because they're happy people, but not necessarily skillful people to run the machine. Therefore, why Pandavas become very significant? Pandavas are skillful and also have the great spirit.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Aruna ji, can you unmute and ask your question?
That's here. I should read or you'll ask?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Prabhu, I have two questions, Prabhu. One is, you were citing examples about how a consciousness at the time of living the body can be the material centric or eternal centric, right? So you gave examples of how material centric could be, but what are the examples of consciousness which are focused on eternal time or eternal concepts?
Yeah, eternal concept again is simple. Internality is represented by Ishvara, Brahman, Bhagwan. For devotees, it's Krishna, Lord Narayan, right? Or just even for somebody, they say, I'm done, I'm completely satisfied. They do not remember their past in the form of regret or in the form of excitement, just by the principle of duty. I'm done with this. Kuch ichhane, when that kuch ichhane comes, they are basically consciously, unconsciously swimming into the principle of eternal reality. So when we
Okay.
disconnect ourselves with our event of life, naturally we don't recreate those events. Therefore, what Krishna says, Antakalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. One who remembers me at the time of death. What does it mean? Again, because we are speaking the concept of time, and God is, the Supreme Brahman is not different from the time factor. When you remember the eternal time, the moment does not matter to you. You've gone beyond that.
Okay. Thanks, Prabhu. I have another question. So this is related to both karma and time. So we had this Kartik month last few days ago. So, and we were told that we have been told that whoever offers lamp, the ritual of offering lamp to Damodara, will be washing away so many sins from previous lives. So how is it relevant to what we are discussing, Prabhu? Is that something only applicable for devotees, and or it's applicable to everyone unknowingly?
This is again the principle where the Prakriti and the great sages, they offer certain specific benefit. Like you go to the shop, what happens? There are discounts. So there are certain muhurtas which are beneficial. If people take advantage of that, there are chances that they can overcome the limitations of their life. But the point is, it cannot be accidental. It should be conscious. And what does conscious means? Whether such facilities are there or not, if you are philosophically situated deeply, then what happens? You do that as a gratitude, as against those who are doing it as an opportunity. Oh, I will only do during Kartik. That is called as, it is explained by Jiva Goswami. It's a Kadachitka Bhakti, like Janmashtami I celebrate Ramnami, I celebrate Shivratri. But on everyday basis, I may not recollect only. So again, the scriptures and the sages want to offer benefit to all class of people. Right. So therefore, it is not only the Kartik which is important, because Kartik falls into the category of Muhurta only. But what is important along with that Kartik, the time itself is very important. So whether there is Kartik or no Kartik, of course there is a Kartik, because it is an eternal reality. For somebody who passes away in non-Kartik time, non-auspicious time compared to auspicious time, but they have given such an emphasis and importance to their life itself, the eternality itself. Therefore, Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, for my devotee, what do you mean by my devotee? Not that he is practicing spirituality accidentally, time bound, the event bound devotion, the moment bound devotion. It is time bound devotion, eternality. And therefore, for such people, it doesn't matter when they pass away.
So does it mean that we should be using the opportunities of events to make it an eternal reality in our life,
Yeah,
Prabhu?
very good. You got it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
so much, Prabhu. Thank you, Hari Krishna.
Yeah. Sheetal ji, you can ask your question. Sheetal ji.
Yeah, can you hear me, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Yes, Hare Krishna. This is the first time I'm actually listening to your seminar. I'm really thankful for your insights. What you said was, okay, Hiranyakashipu and all were, they really probably don't matter to us. But if we look at the horrors of this century, like something like the Holocaust, okay, where so many, I don't know how many, I think 9 million or 6 million Jews were killed. So I remember one rabbi who mentioned about 4 years back that basically they were sinners and that's the reason they got all that punishment. But when you make a statement like this, there was a big fervor of uproar. People said, what an insensitive way to look at it. So I wanted to ask you is that how does the law of karma kind of work in these kind of situations when there are masses being tortured, masses being done? And secondly, if we just extend it maybe to an individual life, if there is a situation, how do you know that it is your karmic workout or whether you're creating new karma? Because if we go by that logic, maybe the Nazis and the Hitlers were just actually been there to just give out that kind of experience to those kind of people. So whether they were just victims, bystanders, or whether the Nazis were, it's a very difficult kind of interplay. So if you could throw any light onto this, that would be really very helpful.
Again, our Sanatana Dharma gives very interesting concept that the principle of karma, that you diagnose, when a doctor diagnoses you, there is a relationship between you and the doctor. There is a trust and there is a sensitivity. The purpose of telling you the problem is to heal the problem, not to slander you. We discussed this yesterday. So therefore, when somebody says, oh, you are suffering because of your own sin, it is one of the most derogatory statement against the living entity. Whether it is Nazi or the famine where the Bengalis experienced because of Churchill. Churchill said, you deserve this pain, the Bengali famine, what millions of people were killed, right? So therefore, when somebody makes that statement, we understand how less they understand the principle of karma. The purpose of karma is not to make you a criminal. The purpose of karma is to tell you your disease and not stop there. Go beyond telling your disease and tell you have the power to heal your disease. Telling somebody that you're having COVID, is it crime? Is it sinful? Is it slander? No. As long as the person is telling me with kindness and empowerment, yes, you have a COVID, but you can overcome this. So that is not a problem. But when somebody says you are born non-believer, therefore you eternally condemned, that shows how religion sometimes has the power to destroy people more than the Nazis themselves.
Absolutely, because it was such an inhuman and dehumanizing statement to make. I
Yes,
totally
yeah,
agree with it. But
yeah.
Prabhuji, my question to this is a little more than that. That in anything, as you said, we have to do a duty, agreed. But keeping this karma principle, okay, in mind also, there are certain things which happen from your hand which should not be happening. Of course, the intention is not there. I'm just wondering that how much do you know that this is something new action which you're creating and not, or it's, I mean, can you distinguish between the two, or
Yeah.
it's difficult?
So therefore, you read Gita. What does Krishna say? Krishna says, we discussed it yesterday, that there are certain historical reality, just like I would know what happened when I was 16 year old. I would know what happened when I was 15 year old. The gross activities I would know, right? So you have the capacity to know why you are going through. If you have not studied nicely in the 10th standard, you would know, okay, if you are logical, okay, I got 70% because I did not study this much. But you studied for 95%. You did very well. You appeared for 20 examination and suddenly you got 70%. What will you do? First, there will be a shocking reaction. How this happened? And there is a facility. You go for recheck. There is a facility you do. And they show your question, your answer paper also. And they prove that you only got 70% actually authentically. Then what you do? Then you say, "Hey, why this is happening?" Then you are entering into the zone which you have no access to. Then you might go to the astrologer, you might go to Vastu Shastra and he might give you another perspective which is gross only, but within his understanding, his capacity. But still, he or she cannot go to such a reality because life is not one lifetime, it is a many lifetime. So what happens? So therefore, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita makes such a wise statement that kim karmeti, kim akarmeti, kava apyatra mohita. It is very difficult to analyze exactly what it is. But if you look for the solution, you can transcend the reaction rather than analyzing why this happened. What is the purpose of knowing? The purpose of knowing karma is not to only know I am a sinner, or I made a mistake, or I made a good thing. The purpose of knowing is to deal with it. Many times what happens, people are stuck to knowing, okay, was it in the last lifetime, whether it is 30 lifetime ago, whether it is 40 lifetime ago. That is not within the capacity of myself, yourself, your astrologer, you know and even if you come to know, that is not benefiting you to progress further, overcome that. So therefore karma does not get into it. Explains for the sake of explaining. There is immediate karma, there is sanchit karma, the different kinds of, there's kuta, and then bija, and then there is a phala. All that is explained, but exactly why are you going through, what are you going through, Krishna says, don't worry about it, move forward, work on it, solve it. I have given certain rule to you, explore that, and beyond that, don't try to understand. That is the beauty of creation. The beauty of creation, again, the harmony is you have to harmonize the abstract and the concrete. You have to harmonize the known and the unknown. And when you become stubborn in regards to the unknown, then your known is also disturbed.
Yeah, Prabhuji, thank you very much. I'm an avid student of astrology, so I really get all the things you're talking about, planets and dashas and all that. So thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Taruja ji, can you please ask the question?
Uh, uh, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wisdom today. You made a mention of how everything that we do is in the moment, and time eventually heals everything. Whatever good we do, whatever we don't do. So, when you think about certain things people are responsible for in the day-to-day life, in the larger scheme of things, time will heal everything. How does then one balance out the whole thing of allowing for time to heal everything versus how we hold people accountable?
Very, very good point. Again, therefore, again, in the logic of how Hindu philosophy practices, the sin is differentiated from the sinner.
Mhm.
The action is differentiated from the person. You punish not the person, you punish the action, and that action is connected to the person, no doubt. But even somebody like Hiranyakashipu was punished. Lord Ram punished Ravan. But at the same time, Ravan also received, what did he receive? He received the final rights which is received by anybody else also. Therefore, you cannot have an eternal hatred, a prolonged hatred for somebody in regards to doing something, even the greatest of the crime.
Mm.
You know, greatest of they are punished. They require, just like if somebody, like I was asking somebody, obnoxious person who does obnoxious act of abusing some woman,
Mm.
a rape case,
Mhm.
and that man becomes repentful, genuinely becomes repentful. So somebody asked this question: is it not that we should basically forgive them? I said, no, you know what? There is an intention, there is action. The Shastra and common sense will say the judge knows that he is actually repenting for what he has done.
Mhm.
But still, he should be punished for that action, because if you do not punish him for that action, it will set a trend amongst those potential criminals, hoping that I have a chance. And imagine how many people you are putting into a risk. So therefore, depending upon the crime, even understanding the sincere, forgive, repentance, the judge will give the punishment while appreciating his reformation, like Krishna did for Bhishma. And who can find faults in Bhishma? Absolutely, he's faultless in regards to his intention, but is faulty regards to his decisions. So his decision was punished by Krishna, but his intention was appreciated by Krishna.
Mm.
If management requires efficiency and relationship requires sportiveness and forgiveness.
Mm.
So therefore it is important. Therefore, yoga is most difficult. Being extreme is very easy. You can be an extremely loyalist to God, to the extent you can say, I can kill anybody for the sake of God, no big deal.
Mm.
That is not a big deal. Or one may say, no, I forgive everybody, human right movement, forgive everybody, why should we do this? These both principles are easy to implement because they're extreme. But what is yoga means? Yoga means basically harmonizing the most contradictory things.
Mm.
Harmonizing between efficiency and the heart. When the heart and the head are harmonized, then you have the capacity to become Arjun. There are tears in the eyes because he loves Bhishma, but there are very fierce arrows entering into the body of Bhishma there. Killing Duryodhana is easy. Killing the worst enemy whom you hate is very easy. Forgiving your child is very easy because it is your child. But balancing between the punishment and seeing their intention is always difficult, and therefore what is expected of a human being? Krishna says tasmas, no tasmad yogi bhava Arjuna. At all the time Arjuna tried to become a yogi. Becoming a yogi is like riding a bicycle. When you start bicycle riding, you always fall. Front side, back side, sideways, left side, right side. And one may feel, I will never learn this. But it happens. Eventually it happens that you are riding bicycle. There is a progression, there is a movement, there is a rhythm, and rhythm gives rise to steadiness. And that is it. This is what is expected. This is the reality of human existence. This is the reality of creation. Creation always functions in the principle of balance. All the planetary, all the planets, all the grahas, they're floating, they're moving. There is a concept called as a retro Vakri planet. Then they're moving properly, and sometimes they're Atichari, moving very fast, which is now happening with the Guru planet. But whatever is happening, at the end of the day, the principle of 360-degree is never ever compromised. If you ever get to study Panchang, the Panchang concept is so phenomenal. You can figure out what could be the movement of the sun in which degree after 1,000 years also, and they will never miss that degree. And unfortunately, we are studying geometry, which is so blunt, so one-sided. If people are taught astronomy, Indian Panchang, you learn geometry, you learn mathematics, you learn astronomy, you learn psychology, you learn human realities also. That is the greatest crime for me. What is that? Keeping away from real knowledge. And therefore, when we are grown up being beaten so badly, we always have a problem in balancing. Even though balance is an everyday affair which we are watching, we are seeing, we are experiencing also, but we still question that. So therefore, all this Mahabharata, Ramayana, Bhagavatam, and real life stories, we see, like in our grandparents' time, they could slap while having a tears in their eyes. Now slapping is a crime only. And pampering, they don't realize, tough love. I'm not saying that one should slap, but I'm saying the point is punishment is seen as abuse and pampering is seen as unconditional love. Unconditional love, there is no such thing as unconditional in this world. Everything is refined bargain or gross bargain. And if you feel people don't learn this lesson, when you love your child unconditionally, you are giving them such an poison, because the world does not give them unconditional love. Rather, the world gives them unconditional brutality, and you are not prepared for that. So therefore, balance means heart is there, but the systems are also there. Only system, heart is lost. Only heart, system is lost. Therefore, the concept of Surya and Chandra, there is concept of Pingala Nadi and Ila Nadi. There is a concept of mother and father. Father represents a discipline side, mother represents affection side. It doesn't mean that mother is not disciplined, but overall, the principle is like that. It's a balance, it's a harmony, it's a yoga. Otherwise, it is simply roga, bhoga, or gross tyaga. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you, Guruji.
If we have one last question we can take.
Christine ji has asked a question on the chat. What's up in the chat?
Can you read it? I'm not able to see.
Yeah, 1 second. I am finding time as a concept a bit difficult to grasp. So I have a very practical question. How do we have a balanced view of life? Not let the past steering you, but learn, and not to get absorbed in the present, but still be there. Not to chase the potential of the future, but to look optimistically ahead.
Yes, you only answered your question, man. You know, you have already in your question only there is answer, because what the Gita teaches, that your past can influence you but cannot control you. Your past will not control you unless you choose to be controlled by your past. But certainly past has the power to influence. And when we understand the past has the power to influence, we become humble in regards to our present. And with that humility, when we work, a humility is not simply a being, oh, she's so humble, he's so humble. Humility is basically a practical reality. And when you operate based upon the practical reality, your analyses are extremely real. And when your analyses are real, they open up the future potential, right? So therefore, we are not bereft of future optimism, but we are not obsessed by the future. There is a nice book written by one psychologist called as, Mindset. And they have proven with so many examples, those who focus on a systematic journey, only they have the power to realize their future potential. Otherwise, people are simply dreaming only. Right? Again, it's those who do that, they are very together people. They are not narcissist. Their reaction to life, they may be aggressive, but the number of time they become aggressive is much less than those who are criminally aggressive in their life, repeatedly abusing or repeatedly forgiving, repeatedly forgetting, repeatedly taking things for granted. Good people without efficiency are as bad as the violent people, because the consequences of both of their activities causes violence to the society only. Therefore, you have already, in the form of, you have made a statement rather than the question. What is it? Yes, we are not getting into the past so much, but the past has the influence. We are not getting into the destination where I want to reach, but you are walking your journey strategically. As Krishna explained in the Bhagavad Gita, you have right to perform your duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits. It is not an order. It is not simply a statement. It's a reality of life, right? And therefore, again, when we consciously practice this, then we have a greater courage to function now. While we know about the past is not haunting us, but past is giving us the awareness. And then we are functioning in such a way, we are seeing our future, unfolding in our very eyes. Thank you very much. We'll stop here and meet again next week, Saturday, to discuss about the three modes of material nature, which is another fascinating topic, which is nowhere to be found even in many other scriptures. Thank you.